Chapter 10, Leading Teams. So objectives: explain how a leader might encourage a group of individuals to work as a collaborative team capable of achieving high performance through a shared mission and collective responsibility. Outline the elements necessary for creating high performance teams. Describe the stages of team development, including dynamics within each stage, impact cohesion and productivity. By the end of this chapter, you should be able to explain the challenges associated with teamwork, including why some people have negative feelings about working in team. Explain the challenges and benefits of virtual teams and the team leader behaviors that contribute to virtual team effectiveness. Describe the skills needed to facilitate conflict resolution amongst teams. The value of teams. Valuable in organizations where work is interdependent. For interdependent tasks, a team ensures coordination, information sharing, exchange of ideas. So interdependent means this: they may work in a unit and they may do something, but what they do is tied to other units. So realistically, you don't work with yourself and by yourself. You're working with somebody, but what you do, give you an example, you may be in a unit that what you guys do, you get from another unit, and then you do something to it. And then when you're finished with it, you take and you pass it on to another unit. That's interdependent. Benefits of teams: high productivity, quality improvements, greater flexibility and speed, flatter management structure, increase employee involvement, satisfaction, lower turnover. So the benefits of teams are this. There's an old saying from Ray Kroc, who was a guy who, he didn't found McDonald's, but he's a guy who bought McDonald's franchise from the McDonald brothers and made it a household worldwide name. And he started the franchising, but he's got a famous quote: "I would rather have 10% of 100 people's effort than 100% of my own." Basically meaning 10% of 100 people's effort is a lot more than what I can do all by myself. And when you're talking about teams, you're talking about working together. 2 can do more than 1. 3 can do more than 2. 4 can do more than 3. 5 can do more than 4. And if you get them all working together, you've got something on your hand. Now you have a team. A unit of 2 or more people who interact and coordinate their work to accomplish a shared goal or purpose. So when you have this team, in essence, everybody's pulling in the same direction. They're all working together to achieve a common goal or mission. Evolution of teams and team leadership. So when we look at that, we look at non-traditional leadership and need for team leadership. Non-traditional, functional team, grouping individuals by activity. Leader-centered, vertical or command team. We look at cross-departmental team. Coordinates across organizational boundaries, arises from change projects. Leader gives up some power, special purpose. Self-directed team, autonomous, defines own boundaries, member-centered. Agile team governs itself within an organization made up of agile teams, develops extremely close relationships with its customers. And this is what you're looking for when you want a team that can operate, basically, that as a leader, you tell them what to do, let them go and do it and get out of their way and let them do it. And what you find with those kind of teams, if they have a question or if they need the leader, they'll come to the leader and let them know. Otherwise, they know what to do. And if you want to manage them, what you're really doing is slowing them down. They don't need management. They are able to govern themselves accordingly and get things done because they know what to do and they're experienced and they're good at their jobs. Let them do their job. Agile teams. The agile team is a small team focused on one element of a large project. It has complete responsibility along with all needed member expertise to produce a product or service. And that's kind of what I was referring to earlier, agile team. And you even see this not only in corporate America, but you also see this now in branches of the military. Even branches of the government where you have agile teams who come in and they can do something, but realistically tell them what you need to get done and let them do it. Agile teams have the following characteristics: small in size, typically up 3 to 6 people, composed of employees from different functional areas, multidisciplinary. Focus is on building solutions for distinct, small, manageable components of larger, complex problems that are integrated into a comprehensive whole. develop extremely close relationships with their customers, both inside and outside organizations. Hold a daily 15-minute meeting called a scrum. So when you see this, this is how they function. They're set up to be a certain way. But you have people within this small group, agile group, they all have different specialties. And they work together to solve complex problems. And and by doing it, they're very efficient. And they hold these meetings, these scrum meetings, so they can get together and touch basically to make sure everything is moving in the right direction. Elements to lead a team to high performance: compelling purpose, clear objectives, and explicit metrics. Diversity of skills and unambiguous roles. Streamline the team size. Decision authority over how to achieve goals. Decide authority over how to achieve goals. Psychological safety. So when you have these teams, they have diverse backgrounds. They have unambiguous roles, meaning they know what it is they're supposed to do. And they also have a certain level of decision making, autonomy over what they do. And they have psychological safety. So they know, give you an example, they know if they make a mistake, they know that it's a learning experience and not a mess up or a screw up, and they're going to be yelled at. 5 stages of team development. So when it comes to looking at it, you're looking at forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. So this is when you start this. And I'll be honest with you, the hardest part is the forming. Orientation, breaking the ice, getting the right people together, getting them on the right sheet of music, and get focused and started. Then the storming is, okay, now we look at the situation, the conflict and the disagreement, we figure out how to take care of it. Then the norming, establishing an order or a cohesion about, we've agreed to what to do, now we come together to do it. Performing, norming is getting the plan together. Performing is actually executing on that plan. Task completion is when you're finished. Team cohesiveness, the extent to which members are attracted to the team and motivated to remain in it. So this is why people will be in an organization or a team, and some of them would turn down promotions, not seek other possibilities that might advance their careers because they like where they are. They enjoy what they do, and they believe in it, and they're cohesive. This is when you see this team cohesiveness. When you see this, a lot of times it goes beyond work. They develop personal relationships with each other. They will even have things where they get together outside of work. Determinants of cohesiveness: team interaction, shared goals, personal attraction to the team, presence of competition, team success. So the team interaction is what I was referring to. They interact not only at work, but outside of work. They share the same goals. A lot of times when I've seen this, they're usually wired very similar. Personal attraction to the team. These people think it's a good fit for them at the team. The presence of competition. They have healthy competition amongst each other. And I've even seen it when they have healthy competition and one wins, they laugh about it and they joke about it until the next competition and go on. And ultimately, they do have team success, and they usually have a history of it. High morale is another thing. Increased communication amongst members, friendly team climate, maintenance of membership, loyalty, member participation in team decisions and activities. So one of the things that they're allowed to do is participate in the decisions that are made for the team and about the team. Consequences of cohesiveness. So you look at the performance. When you have a cohesive team, you have greater productivity, better member satisfaction, greater employee energy and creativity, can decrease performance. Groupthink, the tendency of the people in each cohesive groups to suppress contrary opinions. So when you look at it, you can see there's some good things and also some bad things. What you find sometimes is it can decrease performance when you have consequences of cohesiveness, where it works in a negative way. And groupthink is, let's say that you have 10 people and 8 people in there, and 2 of them think something different. Well, the groupthink, the tendency of the people in the cohesive groups to suppress contrary opinions, the other 6 are going to basically suppress those 2. That is something you don't want to see with a cohesive team. Team norm, an informal standard of conduct that is shared by team members and guides their behavior. So how basically they're normal. What is the normal for that team? It may not be the normal for the company or for the division, but it is the normal for that team. Two ways team norms develop. Primary first is through behaviors. They develop a certain way of doing things. So and when they do that, they have a behavior about them. The second way is explicit leader statements. Statements that are made by the leader about what it is you're trying to do. When you bring those two together, then you get the team norms. Team competencies, goal setting and performance management. So they set their goals, and they also have a certain level of management performance that management will look at to make sure that they're performing at a certain level. Their planning and coordination, how they go about their planning and their coordination. They usually plan very well and they coordinate very well. One of the reasons they plan and coordinate so well, they don't want a duplication of efforts. They don't want two people doing the same thing or overlapping. So they're working smart. Collaborative problem solving. They will come together to solve a problem. Because realistically, if it's 6 people on the team, you don't have one person that actually who's encountered a problem. The way they view it, all 6 of us have this problem, even though one person may be working on it, but all 6 of us will come together to try to figure out how to solve it. They have great communication amongst them. It's almost like they can communicate without even talking to each other sometimes because they're so used to how each other operate. And so some things they don't even have to say to communicate. It's just assumed because they've done it so much. Conflict resolution. When you have team competency, you have teams that work together like this. One of the things, if they have a conflict, even if they have a conflict and it goes negative, what they will not do is hold a grudge, and they will get over it. And the very next day, if it happens on Monday, by Tuesday, they've gotten over it and they're moving forward. And even if they had to say, we agree to disagree, but they will move forward because they're working for a common good, a common goal. So they're not going to let a little conflict come in the way of that. Petty people will. Team member roles. Task specialist role. So when you have a task specialist role, they initiate ideas, they give opinions, seek information, summarize it, and energize. So this is where that's their job, is to come in and to come up with ideas, give opinions, seek information, and energy. Socio-emotional role. Encourage, harmonize, reduce tension, follow, compromise. So that's amazing when you do see these well-oiled teams. They will fall into certain roles. And basically what they do is they become self-sufficient and self-sustaining because they have people who fall in certain roles. These will be 2 different roles, and this will be done by 2 different people. Virtual teams and global teams. Now, this is something, particularly prior to COVID, that wasn't talked about a whole lot, and it wasn't a big brouhaha. Well, it is now. Virtual teams. A team made up of people from different countries and different time zones who might be doing different things. But this is one of the reasons why I promote a lot of team doing classroom learning, experiential learning exercises. I promote a lot of teamwork because you have to do this today in this world. Regardless of what type, you still have to do teamwork. Global team made of culturally diverse members who live and work in different countries and coordinate some part of their activities on a global basis. I see a lot of this now, and that is very, very common in corporate America. The differences between conventional, virtual, and global teams. So we look at the conventional, you co-located, face-to-face, same, and leader challenge is high. So realistically, when you look at conventional, that's really good when you have face-to-face, but a lot of times that's not the way things work, particularly with larger organizations, because people aren't co-located a lot of times. Virtual and remote, scattered, mediated, member coaches, the same. Leader challenge is higher. Why is higher? Because the leader's not in the same place they are. Now you got to try to motivate and stimulate and work through problems, whatever else, with people who are not necessarily co-located. And here's the one that's even more difficult, global. The leader challenge is very high because now you have people who are on different continents and different time zones. What if you're in New York and you have a direct report who's in Australia who's not doing what she's supposed to do? Subsequently, you find out she's coming in late and she's leaving early because other people have told you. See how difficult these things are when you're not co-located. Skills of a successful virtual team leader. Select the right team members. This is the skills when a lot of your problems for a team can be headed off if you put the right people in place from the start. This gives you a much higher degree for success because you've got the right type of people in there. If you put the wrong type of person in there, you're asking for your chances of having problems or encountering problems are going to be a lot higher. Starts off right. From the jump, you got the right people in place, so they're going to start off right. They're going to start off in the direction with the right, and even the type of people you have. Give you an example. If you're a leader of a group that is full of type A personalities, and the type of stuff that you do is high profile, is high speed, is high visibility, and people who are wired that way do very well. But then you bring in somebody who's actually not that type of person, who's not used to working in a high-speed situation, doesn't like visibility, and doesn't like high-profile stuff. You just added somebody to your team who's probably not suited to do that type of work, let alone work with those type of people. Uses technology to build relationships. So use the technology to build relationships. You have the technology, the internet, social media. You have all these things at your disposal. Use it to build relationships. If there's something, a new project, a new software that you get, and you're having to put it out, may have two people working on it stuff. You can have these kind of things. Agrees on ground rules. Everybody on this team agrees what the ground rules are, and they understand, and they're good with that. That's the kind of thing you have to find out from somebody up front. Are you going to be the type of person that would like to do this type of work and would like to work in this type of environment with these types of personalities? Dilemma for team members. This is something you run into sometimes with particularly if you've got a team that's already established and you bring somebody in new and they're actually working in this capacity for the first time. So now you're asking them to give up their independence. That's something they may not be used to. Even though they think it might be easy for them, they may find out that that's something they struggle with. Put it up with free riders. If you've got a group of 6 and you got 5 that's actually pulling their load and 1 that's not, how does that sit with the other 5? How do they handle and process that? Teams are sometimes dysfunctional. When I found teams that are dysfunctional, the first place I look at who's leading that team. That's the first place I want to know. Look at who's leading that team. If these teams are dysfunctional, who's leading that team? Because that's the leader's job to look into the dysfunction, to figure out why it's dysfunctional and to fix it. And to include removing people if you need to. The next thing I'll look at if the team's dysfunctional after the leader is who are your dominant personalities on the team? Who are the alphas on the team? Are they doing a good job? Or are they doing a bad job? Are they part of the problem? 5 common dysfunctions of teams. Lack of trust. Basically, when you have people that don't trust each other for various reasons. And I'll give you an example. If we're doing something and it's something that we can take care of and we fix it, well, a lot of times people view it as no problem. But if one person goes back and tells the manager, well, you know that this Linda didn't do this, but we fixed it. And Linda finds out about it. That's when the lack of trust can start. It's like, okay, this Mike went back and told that I didn't get this right and there wasn't a need to do that. Why did he do that? I don't trust him. Fear of conflict. Some people are conflict adverse. They don't like that. So realistically, they'll go along with others just to keep from having a conflict. Basically, yes people. And if you're the type of person that like yes people around you, or you know somebody like that, I can show you somebody that will never be but so successful as a leader. You want people to tell you the truth. You want people to tell you that you're wrong if you're wrong, but do it in a professional manner. Lack of commitment. Some people just won't believe in what it is you do, the mission. And so they don't commit so much. Imagine if you got 6 people and 2 of them have a lack of commitment because they just don't care or don't believe in it. You got a problem. Avoidance of accountability. So anytime I make a mistake, it's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. And people don't accept responsibility for the outcome. I don't, because it wasn't my fault. The reason I didn't get it right because Mike didn't give me this or Mike didn't tell me that, but it's never my fault. Inattention to results. Members put up personal ambition or their needs of their individual departments ahead of collective. Inattention to results. Bottom line is when somebody's got self-serving interest, and the bottom line is they may work on your team, but they feel like the most important thing on this team is themselves and their results and how they look, not how the team looks. Conflict. Antagonistic interaction in which one party attempts to thwart the intentions or goals of another. Types of conflict. Task conflict. Disagreement among people about the goals to be achieved in the context in which things are performed. So when you have tasks, it's just basically a disagreement. I don't believe we should do it this way. I think we should do it that way. Well, you got two other people say, no, that's wrong. We should do it this way. That's a task. You disagree about how to go about doing something. Relationship conflict. Personal incompatibility that creates tension and feeling. This is when you have people who are different types of people. And not that that's bad, but what I am saying is sometimes you have types of people that's not compatible. And that is an issue because that's a relationship conflict. And from what I've seen, when it's that right there, ultimately what happens is somebody gets removed. Balance conflict with cooperation. So when we look at low and high team performance, we look at the low, we look at the moderate, look at the high. So you have to, what you're aiming for is moderate and high as balancing the conflict. By virtue of being people and things changing in the world, in the workplace, and for teams, you're going to have conflicts. But the goal is to always find ways to work through it. And this again comes back to the leader first, and then to the alphas, alpha people who are on the team. Causes of conflict, competition for resources. So this is a lot of times when you see this competition for resources, this is a lot of times it might be conflict between teams. Who's getting resources and who's not. Bottom line is, if you feel like it's a conflict for resources, one of the things they will not be inclined to do is to share or help others. Different goals when you're talking about conflict between teams or individuals, when they don't have the same goals. Sometimes when people work in silos, they have a manager's like, well, I don't care what those other people want. I don't care about them. I only care about my people. Problem is you're interdependent. And if you do that, and if you say that, your people hear that too. So that attitude of the leader becomes the attitude of that team. Lack of clear roles and responsibilities. Remember I said earlier, we talked about when people are a well-oiled machine and they got a team and people know what they're doing. They don't have duplication of efforts and they're not overlapping. And they don't, well, when you don't have that, this is what you have. You have undefined roles and your responsibilities. And so sometimes you have people duplicating efforts or not working smart. And this is something very common. You have somebody who's working in a role that shouldn't be. Somebody else should be doing that specific duty, but you have it because you don't have defined roles. Somebody else who's doing it, and let's say on a scale of 1 to 5, their skill level is only 4, a 3 or 4. But there's another person in the group whose skill level is a 5, and you didn't give it to them. A model of styles to handle conflict. So when you look at these models of styles to avoid conflict, so the goal is always compromising. Find ways to compromise. This is difficult for some people. So you see one of the ways you look at it, you dominating my way, or they refer to it as my way or the highway. You do what I say or you out of here. Collaborating, our way. Accommodating, your way. Avoiding, no way. When you look at this, the one that you want to be is the collaborating, our way. And this is what you want people to think, and this is what you want to believe. Avoiding basically means there's no way to get this done, so we're going to avoid something. Accommodating your way means I'm a yes person. I'm always going to agree with you because I'm conflict averse. So I'm always going to agree. And dominating my way is always like I can't play fair in the sandbox with others. I want everything to go my way. So when you see this, the one that you want to stand out is collaborating our way. And people believe that, you know what, we are, there's an old expression in sports, there's no I in team. So when you have this, you want to see people saying our way. Negotiation. People engage in give and take discussions and consider various alternatives to reach a joint decision that's acceptable to both parties. And I can tell you with negotiations, when they're done and they're done right with reasonable people, Nobody walks away with everything they got, everything they want. You got to find out. Let's say there's 10 items that we're going negotiating on, and of those 10, I want all 10 of those. And we go into negotiation, come out, well, I get 7. 3 I didn't get, 7 I did. You got to look at that as a negotiation and a win for you and your team. Ways to negotiate. Cooperative approach to negotiation in which conflicting parties try to reach a win-win solution. Ultimately, that is where you want to be, a win-win for each other. But if you can't get to what we say is a win-win for each other, let's get close enough to say, you know what, this may not be a win-win, but it's close enough where we can say that this is something that we can live with. Distributive negotiation. An adversarial negotiation in which conflicting parties compete to win the most resources and give up little as possible. When I think of this is a lot of times what I think of, and I give you the best example I can think of is like a prosecutor and a defense attorney. When the prosecutor, defense attorney is talking about their client, the prosecutor wants to lock this guy up for 25 years. The defense attorney is trying to get him out of it altogether. So instead of going to trial, they agree to negotiate. Well, obviously, both of them want to win. And ultimately, and this is adversarial negotiation. So at the end of the day, somebody is going to come away, well, both should walk away with something that they can agree on, but it started from an adversarial position. And when you find this in corporate America, you will see this could almost be like 2 companies getting ready to merge. And now you're sitting down right there, like, okay, well, each one of them, each company wants to win. And so it's even as though they're going to be in one company. Right now, their negotiations are adversarial. Rules for reaching a win-win solution. Separate the people from the problem. Focus on the underlying interests, not current demands. So one of the things you do is stop focusing on what's different. Find the underlying, separate the people from the problem and focus on the interests and look for the things that you have in common first. And say, okay, this we can agree on, this we can agree on. So if it's 10 points that you all are talking about, you may find that on 5 of them, you actually agree. Okay, so now you're no longer negotiating on 10 points, now you're negotiating on 5. So you have to understand the rules. Listen and ask questions. Insist that the results be based on objective standards. No intuition and gut instincts. You got to show proof, got to be able to show something that makes sense and support your position and basically give some rationale as why do you believe what you believe. That concludes this chapter.